Did you notice how Google published marketer-friendly SEO guidance the day before its I/O conference? There is no way that their timing was accidental. It was choreographed to send a message. And that message could not be more clear. I/O revealed Google's new agentic tools, its universal cart for shopping and buying, and a brand new search box that no longer sends you traffic. It answers queries directly within Google. Google has always been the real everything app that big tech titans and their wannabe contenders have promised for years. And now Google's making that official. Search is the interface that your customers will use to find information, research products and services, book travel, and buy, well, anything or everything. That completely changes the calculus for every business that's relied on search traffic to drive their growth. Within a couple of months, search will no longer send you large volumes of traffic every day. It might not send you traffic at all. Oh, it might be a place people can buy, but only if Google decides you're worth showing at all. Today's episode is going to be a bit longer than usual. There is a lot to cover. Most importantly, I'm trying to offer as clear a read as I can on what Google's announcements mean for you and your business, what they're not talking about, and what you can do to build a brand that can compete when the gatekeeper owns your front door. I'm Tim Peter. This is episode 497 of Digital Reset. Let's dive in. So in a recent blog post, Google outlined how web and content teams can optimize their websites for generative AI features on Google search. In short, they said that AEO and GEO are SEO. In a call-out that asked, what about AEO and GEO? Google said simply, and I quote, "From Google Search's perspective, optimizing for generative AI search is optimizing for the search experience, and thus still SEO. Their biggest tips? Apply foundational SEO best practices to generative AI search. Create valuable non-commodity content for your audience. Build and maintain a clear technical structure." I mean, this is all pretty basic stuff we've seen before. They also followed these up with a section titled Myth-Busting Generative AI Search, What You Don't Need to Do. That included ideas like, you don't need to create new machine-readable files, AI text files markup, or markdown to appear in generative search. They said that there's no requirement to break your content into tiny pieces for AI to better understand it. They said that you don't need to write in a specific way just for generative AI search. They did say that seeking inauthentic mentions across the web isn't as helpful as it might seem, and that structured data isn't required for generative AI search, and there's no special schema.org markup you need to add. Though they did follow that one, by adding, however, it's a good idea to continue using it, that is, structured data or schema.org markup, as part of your overall SEO strategy, as it helps with being eligible for rich results on Google search. That's all good advice. That's all really good advice. What makes this announcement so fascinating, though, is that Google dropped this guidance the day before its I/O conference, where they introduced, in their words, the biggest upgrade to our search box in over 25 years, now completely reimagined with AI. They noted that the new search box is, and this is a quote, designed to anticipate your intent. It also helps you formulate your question with AI-powered suggestions that go beyond autocomplete. I'm going to come back to that in a little while. That is possibly the most important thing they said. They said that the search box, and this is a quote, can search across modalities using text, images, files, videos, or Chrome tabs as inputs. They also introduced at the conference search agents. As their press release notes, again quoting them, "We're entering the era of search agents, where you can easily create, customize, and manage multiple AI agents for your many tasks right in search. We're starting with information agents. Operating in the background, 24/7, these agents intelligently reason across information to find exactly what you need at exactly the right moment." And they followed that up with an intelligent, proactive shopping cart they call the Universal Cart. Their press release for the Universal Cart claims that it is an intelligent shopping cart and your new hub for shopping on Google. It works across merchants and across services so that you can add things to your cart while you're browsing search, chatting with Gemini, watching YouTube, or even reading your Gmail. Nothing ominous about that, is there? The release continues. The moment you add a product to your cart, it gets to work in the background, finding deals and price drops, giving you insights on price history, and alerting you when an item is back in stock. That is a ton of information, and I realize I've quoted more from Google than I might normally do. But notice what they've done here. Notice what they've actually announced. They told you how you can show up on Google. They told you how you can show up in their AI. They didn't tell you how you can drive more traffic to your site. Universal Cart and information agents and whatever other agents follow down the road aren't designed to drive traffic. They're designed to keep people within Google. For years, tech titans have talked about the idea of the everything app. It's what Elon Musk is trying to do with the hollowed out husk of Twitter that he calls X. It's what Mark Zuckerberg wants to do with Meta's social apps like Facebook and Instagram, as well as AI and smart glasses. The everything app is the holy grail. It's designed to take over and ultimately replace your customers' phones when they're looking to connect with friends and find information and research products and services and book travel and buy whatever it is they need to buy. I've said for a long time that those efforts were not likely to succeed because we already had an everything app. Search. Google Search, most specifically. Search already is the everything app your customers use. It's where they traditionally have started most of their browsing and shopping and buying journeys. So, sure, your customers learn about new ideas and solutions and products and services from influencers and creators and friends and family on social. That's true. But when your customers were ready to learn more, dive deeper, browse, book, or buy, they pretty much always turned to search. They turned to Google. Google was the front door. Google was, for all practical purposes, the everything app. What more could you need? At least that's what I thought. Turns out I was wrong about that. I mean, sure, search was the front door to learning and browsing and buying. But at some point in your journey, your customers clicked away from Google and ended up at your front door. Customers showing up at your site or in your app allowed you to build direct relationships with those customers, to encourage them to return, and to do that without clicking a link from somewhere else the next time. To do that, without searching. And that, turns out, is something Google simply cannot allow. Remember, gatekeepers gonna gate. Google didn't get here all on its own, of course. Amazon has long been the first place people searched when they were shopping. And X and Meta, as I've already mentioned, had been working on their interpretations of the Everything app for some time. All the money that, Meta has poured into AI is about becoming the Everything app. And then, of course, along came AI itself. Google has lost a little bit of market share and more than a little bit of mind share to ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude. Those AI tools offered a better experience and, at least at first, a more complete vision of what an everything app might look like in the current universe, though they didn't say that part out loud. What was happening, though, was that your customers were able to go to their favorite AI app and chat, research, learn, and sometimes buy or book the products or services they wanted. AI was becoming the new gatekeepers, the ones who might take a seat at big tech's table, or, take over the whole table for themselves. Again, that's simply something that Google cannot allow. Google, you might remember, announced their most profitable quarter, the most profitable quarter they've ever had, less than a month ago. They certainly weren't going to let that be the most profitable quarter they ever would have. That's why search has to become the real everything app. That's why they're introducing agents and universal carts. That's why they come into play here. Google is making its bid to be the one and only place customers go when they're seeking information, insights, products, and services every single time. You know that I think they've got a huge leg up in this arena. They connect with your customers in all kinds of ways, large and small, every day. I mean, sure, there's search. There's also Gmail and Calendar. There's Workspace and Drive and Docs. There's Maps. There's News. There's Travel. There's Flights and Google Cloud. Oh, yeah, and Android and Chrome, too. Plus their deal with Apple to provide the default search and AI experiences on Apple hardware. That is an incredible footprint that, for all practical purposes, no one else can touch. Now, remember when I said I'd come back to how the new search box is designed to anticipate your intent and help you formulate your question with AI-powered suggestions that go beyond autocomplete? Well, you might remember that a couple of weeks ago, I looked at Amazon's sponsored prompts, which are ads that show up as customers type their query. You pay to have your brand appear in suggested prompts. I don't know, you could even call them something like AI-powered suggestions that go beyond autocomplete. Now, where have I heard that phrase before? Oh, right, in Google's press release announcing the new search box. Gatekeepers gonna gate, man. It's what they do. It's a whole new ad format. And I said at the time, everybody's gonna do it. Well, I think they're gonna do it. Google at the same time has been pushing its AI Max advertising feature for about the last 7 or 8 months. About a month ago, they also said that they're upgrading dynamic search ads to AI Max, which is their nice way of saying they're killing advertising-controlled dynamic search ads, automatically created assets, and campaign-level broad match settings in favor of AI-managed and AI-driven ads. Don't worry about putting in place the messages and rules and restrictions that govern how and where some of your campaigns appear. AI will handle that for you. And then it'll let you know what a good job it's doing for you. Just trust them. Gatekeepers gonna gate. They raise the cost of connecting with your customers. It's what they do. That was the core thesis of my book, Digital Reset. It's the core thesis of this podcast. This is just the latest example. There is one single huge question you have to ask yourself now. And that is, how do you lower the cost of reaching your customers when Google's AI, or anyone else's, is the search box, is the shopping cart, is the everything app between you and your customers? That's your job now. Well, first, don't panic. Yes, you will have work to do here. And yes, some of it's going to be expensive at first, and some of it's going to be kind of annoying. But if you offer products or services to your customers Your brand will be built more by their experiences with those products and services than anything else. You're a hotel? Guests will learn more about your brand during their stay than anything Google or some social media creator can tell them. You offer financial services? Well, your advice, your counsel, your concern and performance show your clients what they need to know. You offer SaaS capabilities? Your customers are hands-on with your products all the time, possibly multiple times per day. That experience is what they're going to remember. Second, remember that your brand is the prompt, and that your brand, the prompt, is built on three core elements. The first is that content is king. The second is that customer experience is queen. And the third is that data is the crown jewels. We're seeing some subtle shifts in these because of AI's growth. That's true. For instance, content distribution, being seen on social media as well as driving customer-generated content like ratings and reviews, is every bit as important as the content you create yourself now. And that's only going to get bigger over time. While the core of that isn't especially new, that's always been important. The added emphasis on channels beyond your website and on customer commentary is certainly something that's newish, right? The emphasis is important. Google, as I mentioned at the top of the show, said in its generative search guidance that seeking inauthentic mentions across the web isn't as helpful as it might seem. They didn't say, nor would they say, that authentic mentions aren't helpful. I see hotels and other businesses I work with show up in Google AI overviews and AI mode, as well as ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude every day because they get continual and consistent high-quality reviews on Google, Yelp, TripAdvisor, G2, and across Chatter and social media sites. Similarly, your CRM data takes on added weight in this new world. When you talk with customers via email or SMS, you have an opportunity to bypass AI gatekeepers and build deeper, longer-lasting connections, not just today, but tomorrow and the next day and the next day too. Which, of course, brings us back to content that your customers will find it worth their while to read, listen to, or watch. As my friend Ed St. Ange likes to say, the point of every second of your content is to earn another second of your customer's attention. The flip side of that is that every second that isn't worth your customer's attention isn't worth sending them. It isn't worth writing. It isn't worth publishing. This is one of the key reasons. It's probably the single biggest reason I don't recommend using AI to create your content. If you're not willing to spend time on crafting content that's relevant and useful to your customers, why would you expect your customers to spend any of their valuable time engaging with it? Putting this all together, Google just delivered their vision, their version of the Everything app. They also told you they still expect your content to train that app and provide it with the answers it will need to keep customers within their ecosystem. Isn't that nice of them? They also gave you guidance on how you can ensure your content does its job for their needs. Again, yay, Google. You probably have to play that game to some degree. I can't picture a world in which you don't. You probably have to play that game at first to connect with customers the first time. The businesses that think beyond big tech, though, know that the real win comes from building deep relationships between your customers and your brand, and that building those deep relationships depends on content worth their time and customer experiences they'll rave about to their friends and family and fans and followers, and their AI assistants and agents. And that if you use your data wisely to better inform those discussions and experiences with your customers, you're going to do a much better job of creating a brand your customers will ask for by name again and again and again, or send their agents out to find for them. Google wants to be the everything app. Your job is to build a brand that means everything to your customers instead. If this episode gave you a clear picture of what Google's long-term looks like in practice and how you can play it more effectively, do me a favor. Send this episode to a colleague who's currently struggling to figure this out. It might save them and your business from going down the wrong path. You can find the show notes for this episode at timpeter.com/podcast. And if you're ready to go deeper on making your brand the answer that AI reaches for every time, my book, Digital Reset, Driving Marketing and Customer Acquisition Beyond Big Tech, is the roadmap you're looking for. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening this week and every week. I genuinely appreciate you. Until next time, please be well, be safe, and be excellent to each other. I'll see you soon.